Hi, I'm Corey, and I have too many tapes. Just popping in with a review of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Why, you might ask? Well, I have a complicated history with Kevin Smith. He's the reason I went to film school. I saw Clerks at an impressionable age, and it made me realize that with enough passion and faith and gumption, I could make a movie of my own too. In a roundabout way, he's also the reason I stopped going to film school. About a decade ago, I saw him talk to a group of film students at a Denver screening of Red State. If you can believe it, that backstage talk was even more candid than his general frontstage Q&As. He talked about his brief experience at film school and why he dropped out in order to make Clerks. It was an enlightening moment in all of the worst ways for a film school kid who was unsure of his passions. I'd say never meet your idols, but this was humbling in a way. Kevin Smith seemed trapped on this tour of Red State, like this was his last big play. Coming out of the failure of Zack and Miri Make a Porno and the depressing fog of Cop Out, Red State was weird and angry and flailing in all of the most interesting ways. For a guy who dropped out of film school, it seemed like exactly the kind of movie a film school kid would make, for better or for worse. I left that screening and that Q&A with a respect for the film but a pit in my stomach. And after that, I stopped being a filmmaker and I settled into a career as a graphic designer, always sort of wondering, what if? But I've never given up on Kevin Smith. He's kin, in a way. I pinned my hopes to the man. I was really devastated to learn about his heart attack a couple of years ago, and I was also really touched to see all of the outpouring of love and support for him online. It seems like we weren't ready to be done with Silent Bob, and now, 25 years after the release of Clerks, it seems like Kevin Smith isn't done with him either. Sorry to bury the lead, but Jay and Silent Bob Reboot isn't a good movie. And it's also not a bad movie in the way that Cop Out or Yoga Hosers is. It's an interesting misfire that's half vanity project, half lack of vanity project, and a stunning testament to all of the ways Kevin Smith has matured as a person, and all of the ways he hasn't matured as a filmmaker. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is a loose and lampshaded retread of the plot of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. The weed-dealing boys / middle-aged men are off to Hollywood once again to stop the production of a reboot of Blunt Man and Chronic. The road trip runs them into old friends and new discoveries as Jay learns that he fathered a child with his one-time love interest, Justice. The kid doesn't know him, and Justice wants to keep it that way, but Jay and Silent Bob agree to take Millie, short for Millennium Falcon. Get it? Like, Kevin Smith's daughter is named Harley Quinn. Get it? And Harley Quinn plays Millennium Falcon in the movie. Get it? And a group of her friends to Chronicon, the annual Blunt Man and Chronic convention, to be a part of the new film. Cue the shenanigans, or snooganigans? Snoochie boochies? The film tries its hand at a series of weed jokes and cameos and gross-out humor and callbacks and references to better movies, and sincere attempts at profundity. It's kind of a mixed bag, honestly, but that's kind of Kevin Smith in a nutshell. There are some moments of just sheer hilarity in this thing, but then there's these long stretches of just weirdly written and poorly timed patter that drag down a movie that's already sagging under its 95-minute runtime. Part of this is because it's the worst edited of Kevin Smith's films by a pretty wide margin. People have fairly criticized him in the past for his basic blocking and general lack of a cinematic eye, but he's always been rather adept at cutting together a pretty zippy comedy scene. There's just something airy to all of this, though. Shots linger too long on punchlines that don't land, and transitions between scenes and acts can be really abrupt in a movie that's already got a problem with being overly episodic. The biggest holes in the proceedings, though, are when Smith lands those high-caliber actors from earlier in his career. In particular, a really charismatic cameo from Rosario Dawson almost derails the entire movie. It's like the first time you put on glasses after years of thinking that blurry vision is just normal. You suddenly start seeing details and nuances that you couldn't see before, and then suddenly someone yanks the glasses away from you, and you have to go back to pretending that the blurry vision is the normal vision, but you can't. You've seen the details, and now everything is just not as good. I'm also still feeling the lack of his longtime producer Scott Mosier. I won't pretend to understand their working dynamic apart from hours and hours of Smodcasts that I listened to a decade ago, but I really feel that when Kevin has a strong co-pilot, he makes better work. But there's good here, too. Harley Quinn Smith isn't the greatest actor in the world, but she has that sort of raw charisma that Kevin Smith was really able to capitalize on with amateur actors like Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson's Dante and Randall in Clerks, and the cast of teens around her are all really quite good. Smith also wears his heart on his sleeve in this flick, and it's always been his secret strength as a writer. The man has this enormous, squishy, emotional core, and the more he's able to access it, the more compelling his films are. That's right, I was the one guy who liked Jersey Girl. What's missing is more consistency in the theme. If Jay and Silent Bob Reboot had been more about Jay and Millie's relationship, we could have had potentially another Clerks 2 on our hands. Instead, we meander from set piece to set piece, only occasionally getting glimpses of the quieter, more interesting film we could have had. Jay and Silent Bob don't have to be one note, and Kevin Smith has treated them with more nuance in the past. It's just frustrating to see them used so sloppily here. The third act of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is the film in a microcosm. It's a friendly but flimsy excuse to hang out with old and estranged friends for a while. Ben Affleck's movie thesis statement of a cameo may go on a bit too long, but it really drives home the point of the film. When you have a kid, the whole drama of life gets restaged. You get out of the driver's seat and just try to make sure your kid has the best life they possibly can. And for that reason, I can't bring myself to hate Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. It's an opportunity for Harley Quinn to shine. It's a baton pass. For a time, I felt that Kevin Smith lost his passion, but with this movie I realized it's just redirected into his daughter. The film is a love letter to the interesting and independent adult that his kids become, but it's wrapped in a dick joke and smoked like a joint. That's just who Kevin Smith is. He's an amalgamation of 90s slang, jorts, tacky jokes, and kindness. A guy who seems wrong a lot of the times, but's fundamentally good at heart. So I'll keep rooting for him. And I'll see his next movie, which is apparently a Clerks sequel in which Dante and Randall make a movie at the Quick Stop, with the same through-the-fingers dread that I saw this one in. Always expecting him to fall. And always forgetting that that's the point. Thank you for watching Too Many Tapes. I normally cover old stuff, but Kevin Smith has been part of my life for so long, so I decided that when I saw this movie, I'd give it a shot and review it. A special thanks to my patrons who keep the lights on. If you feel like donating $1 or more, please visit the link in the description. If you feel like donating $5 or more, you wind up here in the zone of power. And if you donate $20 or more, I say nice things about you, like Chase Smith, who I will say nicer things about in the next episode, which I have already edited. Coming next week, my review of the worst vampire movie of all time. So tune in next time on Too Many Tapes.